Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation is from Rag Gaudi, Mahalla Panjava. Ik Oankar Satgur Prasad. Trisana Biarle Hee ki Bujhi hai, Rahao. कोट जोरै लाख करोड़ै, मन न होरै, परे परे ही को लूझी है। सुंदर नारी अनेक प्रकारी, पर ग्रह विकारी, बुरा भला नहीं सूझे है। अनेक बंधन माया, परमत परमाया, गुण निद नहीं गाया, मन बिखे ही मह लूझी है। जाको रे कृपा करे, जीवत सोई मरै, साध संग माया तरै। नानक सो जन दर हर सिंझी है। जाको रे कृपा करे, जीवत सोई मरै, साध संग माया तरै। नानक सो जन दर हर सिंझी है. This passage talks about Trisana. That's the rahau. That's what we have to pause and think and reflect on. Trisana Biarle Hee ki Bujhi hai. Rare is the one who quenches the thirst of Trishna. So the question is Trishna. Trishna means thirst or greed for sensory experience, and commonly we use it to denote sensual pleasure or desire or passion. So we have to understand that the way we are constructed, the human structure and its function, by its very nature, it is fueled by Trishna. So in Gurbani, Trishna is likened to a fire, the fire of desire that keeps the pot of passions boiling, in other words. So passions should be understood in this context as a generic term for striving, longing, desire. This is built into the human structure. And so the mind then uses the senses to experience bhog, sensory pleasure. And that is what leads to recreation and repetition, because the mind seeks pleasure. This is what causes that conditioning, that cycle of wanting to experience that over and over again. However, what Gurmat is telling us is that all worldly pleasure, the pleasure of the senses, is alloyed with pain. Indeed, the body and senses are viewed as the seat of pain. Pain and pleasure are inseparable. If you seek pleasure, then be prepared to suffer pain as well, because they're intertwined. And we know this from experience. It teaches us that. And so Gurmat is really telling us not to get trapped into this cycle, because it leads to afflictions, it leads to cravings, addictions. That is bandhan, bondage. And so avoidance of that pain becomes the goal. Now, Gurmat also reminds us that this subjugation to Trishna, which is natural to the human condition, it actually arises from a lack of discernment, avidya, a lack of wisdom that can discriminate between actions that will cause pain or lead to pain or are destructive. So the opposite of Trishna that we have to cultivate is Udasi or Vairagya, which is a state of dispassion, not to be confused with not doing anything or impotence. It simply means that passions, also called raga, dvesh in Gurmat, these passions color. They're colors. Different desires are referred to as colors, and they tincture the self. They cover the self that leads to ignorance. Good wisdom is the key to understand how the cycle works, and so that you can control that fire, so you can turn it down when you need to. You see, that's the whole game. And the rest of the passage actually describes the condition that we are all in. Trishna, how is it driving us? He goes on to say, the first example, Koot jore lakh karode man na hore, pare pare hi ko luji hai. Koot jore lakh karode, having amassed millions, the craving for more and more only increases. Pare pare hi ko luje hai. Man na ho raha. In all of this, the mind remains unrestrained. So you're simply fueling that fire. The more you have, the more you want. And you get trapped in that. The second example. Sundar nari anik prakari, paragrah bikari, bura pala nahi suje hai. Sundar nari anik prakari. A man may have many winsome beauties in his house, Sundar nari anik prakari, but that does not stop him from breaching another person's home and committing adultery. Why? Because bura pala nahi suji hai. He has not developed the sense of discernment, of discrimination, and is being tossed about by passions. And these are what become fetters. Anik bandhan maya paramat paramaya, gun nid nahi gaya, man bikhe mehi luji hai. So fettered by the bonds of maya, we wander about in ignorance, paramat paramaya, touched by the poison of pain. You see, this is sweet poison. And in the process, the treasure of self-knowledge is not cultivated. We remain bereft of self-knowledge and continue in this cycle. Man bikhe mein hi luji hai. And so the Guru comes back to the point he was making, that it is the rare individual who is able to transcend Trishna. Jako re kirpa kare. Those who are blessed, so blessed. Jivat soi mare. Only they learn the art of dying to the world. That is another way of saying becoming dispassionate, of being in control of the passions. So soi mare. And how does that happen? Sad sanga maya tare. You're transcending maya, because maya is what generates. It is this nature that has created this body that seeks pleasure. And so you require the company of the sadhu, here the Guru, that wisdom. Nanak, in conclusion, Nanak says or declares, Nanak so jan dar har sinjire. Nanak declares such a rare individual to have achieved the success of arriving at the door of the Creator. Arriving at the door of the Creator simply means to have transcended ego consciousness, because the ego, haume, and Trishna are twins. They go hand in hand. Indeed, they're the same in many ways. So those who are blessed find good wisdom and are able to transcend their how-may consciousness and reach the border, if you will, of transcendental consciousness. Until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.